Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino. I'm here with Jesse Tyler Ferguson, of course, on Broadway's Take Me Out. Also, you might know him from Modern Family. Jesse, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just figuring out my computer situation.
Congratulations. You have a new baby. I just saw that in the
Yeah.
news. How's it now with two? You have two kids now.
Two kids. Yeah. Uh it's good. It's just that all happened at a very crazy time because I'm doing this play in New York right now, and I sort of had to go into this play knowing that I was going to have a baby a few weeks in, and I was going to have to go away, and then I was going to have to sort of go back and forth and do a lot of cross country flights to work and also be around the family. So it's been exhausting. And when Beckett was born, he was born during the pandemic. So I had all the time in the world to be around him. And now it's the exact opposite where I'm really busy. And so it's like a happy medium would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much longer are you on Broadway?
The show runs until February 5th.
Okay. So then will you have a
So
break after that? A little breather?
I'm hoping so. I think I need to be back in LA with the family. I've been basically almost exclusively in New York this year. So, I need to get back to LA.
And is two it, or are you thinking more, or are we done?
Oh, 100% we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was even debate of like, are we doing another one? And we always talked about two. So we're like, let's just commit to that. But yes, I mean, it's really exciting seeing the new baby and kind of going through that all again. But like, I'm also breathing a huge sigh of relief that like as we go through each stage of the baby, I can like throw away or donate those things and get the clutter out of my house, and I'm sure make room for new clutter that will
Yeah.
come with children.
It's so amazing to me. I grew up sort of with very few examples. I'm a gay man myself, and it's kind of shocking and amazing to me. And I wonder what your take is on it, but that there's so many public gay people having being parents now. I think of
Hmm.
you and Andy Cohen and Anderson Cooper. And I mean, when I
Hmm.
was growing up, I remember watching the Rosie O'Donnell show was my favorite. And I remember she would talk about her adoption processes, but it was rare. It wasn't something that was in
Yeah.
the public eye, and it's incredible.
No, it's really exciting. I have tons of very close friends like Neil Patrick Harris and Cheyenne Jackson, and I'm friendly with Andy as well, who's doing it alone. By the way, he doesn't even he's a single dad. Um, it's really I mean, they have been guiding me. I'm older than some of these people, but they had babies before me, so I'm looking to them for advice, and I love the visibility of that. I think that uh, also I have let's just say I have a lot of straight friends too who have used surrogacy, and I just there's just so many ways to start a family now through adoption, through surrogacy, and I love that people who are desiring to be parents have those options available to them. I mean, look, I made the mistake of going on to like I don't know like extra Instagram or Entertainment Tonight's Instagram, and it's a very wide net that they have a lot of people, a lot of different types of people follow those Instagrams. So I was like, let me just see like what the response is about me and Justin having a baby, and honestly, most of them are very positive, 80% of them, and then a shockingly large amount is like people are just disgusted that this is something that gay men are allowed to do, and it's
Oh
just
my God.
so shocking to me because no one wants children more than people who have to go through this process, and no one there's so many things you have to put into place, and it's so expensive. It's not a vanity thing at all. You have to really want that kid. There are so many opportunities to say, you know what, I think I'm done, let's not do this. And we really wanted to be dads, and I think Justin and I are good people, and I think good people should be raising kids, and um, I'm just thrilled that I get to sort of watch these two tiny gentlemen grow and hopefully navigate them into being wonderful people. So
It's
we're all in the
Beckett, and
same boat.
what's the other name? Beckett and
Sullivan.
Sullivan. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
My boyfriend and I were the goal or the plan is next year to sort of start the process of children.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, do you have any advice for people at the beginning of that journey? I mean, it's maybe a broad
Yeah.
question.
It's interesting because if you're if you're a straight couple and you are just like gonna let's start trying. You just try and like you see what happens and maybe you get pregnant, maybe you don't. Maybe you have to go through in vitro, maybe you have to take some hormones. But like, it's basically a lot of the times it's pretty easy and it sort of happens. With surrogacy, I can't I can only speak towards surrogacy because I haven't adopted, but like or foster cared a child. But with surrogacy specifically, there are so many steps along the way and so many decisions to make. And I think it's really easy to fall into the trap of overthinking each one of these moments. There's the moment of like just choosing the egg donor, and like it's basically you're given all these different egg donor options, and you see like their you see a photo of what they look like, but then also DNA and family history and interests and where they went to college, and like you're presented with so much information and you start to overthink. And at the end of the day, I feel like you just have to go with your gut, look at like 5 viable options, and move on to the next step, because you will get stuck in this holding pattern of like all these decisions you have to make. So my advice is to just try and power through and not overthink things.
I'm already pre-stressed about the whole situation.
I understand. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. When you started out your career, who did you look towards as sort of your inspiration of kind of what you wanted to do? Because, I feel lucky that I've been able to grow up and see so many of people like yourself, like people you mentioned, Neil Patrick Harris, and seeing a career path forward. But I wonder what it was like for you. Who did you look towards?
That's a great question. And I didn't really have a specific person that I looked at. There wasn't a lot of visibility. There wasn't a lot of out actors when I was, a teenager or even younger. And, for me, it was like, I'm a theater kid, and like I looked toward people in the theater, and I was a great admirer of Nathan Lane and
the most brilliant Nathan Lane.
Oh my God. Insane. I mean, the fact that I got to work with him as much as I did is just, and I hope to do more, but it's just such a gift. But I didn't have anyone on television that I really looked toward. I mean, Will and Grace had sort of started, but at the time, Sean was not, he was staying private and he wasn't out publicly, which is fine. And but also those characters, I was like, they're really fun and I want to hang out with them, but like I didn't see them as aspirational like people that like they weren't starting a family, which is something I wanted to do. They were rarely in long-term relationships, and so for me, I didn't really have that, and so that's why when Modern Family came around, I was just so excited that I could be that for a new generation of kids. But yeah, when you're talking about like people who I looked up to as far as like career paths, I just like I mean my answers are like Bernadette Peters, which
I love
like
that
I'm
answer.
very very dislike. I mean I'm not like her at all. I mean like I not to say I'm not like her. I didn't mean to say I dislike. I'm
Yeah.
not like her at all. But yeah, it's yeah.
I love that.
I don't know.
Wait, Jesse, you mentioned Will and Grace, and of course, all the episodes of Will and Grace were directed by this genius that I'm so impressed with, Jimmy Burrows. And he recently wrote a book, and I saw him in some interviews, and I don't remember if it was in the book or in an interview, but he talked about this project you did with him called The Class.
Yeah.
And he said I think he had inferred that was the one that got away because it lasted one season, and he seemed to say that it was something that should have lasted forever. So I just wanted to ask you about, like, do you have an experience with that project that you remember? It was you and I believe Jason Ritter and John Barenthal and
Lizzie Kaplan.
Right.
Lizzie Kaplan, a really amazing cast, actually. And a lot of New York actors, Julie Halston and Heather Goldenhirsch.
2006-ish, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. It's I was doing Spelling Bee on Broadway at the time, and the writers, David Crane and Jeffrey Cleric. David wrote on Friends, and Jeffrey Cleric, his partner, and I mean that in both sense of the ways. They're together. Oh. They're together and they write together. But Jeffrey Cleric wrote on Mad About You. And so they had this project, The Class, and they saw me in Spelling Bee and they cast me as one of the characters. And it was my first time on television. And I got to meet Jimmy Burrows, who is, for for those who are listening who don't know who he is, I mean, he's directed everything from Will and Grace, like you just mentioned, but Cheers and MASH and Frasier, and he's just been around forever. He's an icon, and he was my sort of mentor, like learning how to act in front of a camera, at least on a multi-camera show. Is one of those sitcoms, filmed in front of a live studio audience, and it was a really great show, and it was a very desirable script. A lot of actors really wanted to be seen for it, and there was a lot of, I think, expectations around it. They sort of were, looking at it to be like the next Friends. Friends had just left. I think had just wrapped up, or that we're just wrapping up. I think he basically went from Friends right into the class, and it just never really came together. It was a very ambitious project, and it's out on DVD. You could watch the one season that exists, and my husband actually watched it during quarantine, and he loved it. He was like, "This is a great show," and it's like, I know, but halfway through they tried to like restructure it, and it just didn't come together. And Jimmy Burrows, I know, speaks very fondly of the show, and he has a really good instincts about what is going to work and what's not going to work, and he really felt that was going to be a huge hit, and it wasn't, and I think it shook him a little bit. So I heard that he talks about it in the book, and I also heard a podcast that he did recently, and he talks about the class there as well. But it opened up the door for me to do other things, but I did think when that didn't work, I was like, oh, well, I'm certainly not going to be asked to do another television show. I'm just going to have to go back to New York and do theater. And, that's not what happened. But
yeah, I was just going to ask, what is the mindfuck of that? Because you finished that show that I would imagine anyone going into that show, you do have these high expectations because it's David Crane, Jimmy Burrows, and you got Modern Family. Was it like a year or two, or was there much of a dip in between?
Well, what happened right after that was the writer's strike. Okay. And so everyone in LA was, not working. And I had decided to stay in LA and just sort of, because I had moved so much of my stuff out there to do the class. I thought, well, let me just stay out here and give LA a little bit of a shot and just see what happens. And then the writer's strike happened. So I kind of went back and forth between New York and LA a little bit, but kept most of my things in LA. And when the writer's strike finally lifted, I think everyone was just really looking for content, and I got a show called Do Not Disturb, written by Abraham Higginbotham, who happens to be one of the writers on Modern Family. But it was not successful at all. It was a big bomb, and it was sort of like the upstairs downstairs of a hotel, and I worked in the downstairs office. All the pretty people worked upstairs, and
who was upstairs? Was there someone that I would know?
Jerry O'Connell and Niecy Nash, and this girl Molly Stanton, who's great. Davy Franco, James Franco's little brother. It was actually a pretty fantastic cast. And downstairs with me was Jolene Purdy, who was in the White Lotus, first season of White Lotus. Anyway, so it was canceled after I think 3 or 4 episodes. It was the first show canceled of the season, and the next season is when I did Modern Family, which won the Emmy. So I went from the worst show, technically the worst show on television, got canceled first, to the show that was deemed the best on television, which was quite a, whiplash moment for me. But after Do Not Disturb was, canceled, I thought, okay, well, that's it. I'm going to go back to New York and just do theater. And the Modern Family script came, and that's the rest is history.
So was the Modern Family years, was that all sort of a blur? Because you guys ran for so long and it was always so hugely successful. Does it feel like a blur looking back on that time?
No, I think I remember a lot of it really, really well. I mean, I think all the cast members probably have different answers, specifically the kids who, were so young when it started. But, I remember very vividly how it felt to be, the cool kids at the party, and everyone loved us and everyone wanted to meet us, and I was meeting insane people like Steven Spielberg, who was a fan of the show, and I remember walking by Victoria and David Beckham at a party, and they gasped. I was like, "You're gasping at me?"
And weren't they
What's going on?
Were they on it? I think
David ended up being on it in the latter season. It was a very long chunk of my life. I mean, no actor, very few actors have the opportunity to sit in a job as long as we got to sit in Modern Family. I mean, the life of an actor is rife with, like, constantly coming up against unemployment. And I mean, I remember especially when I was doing theater, I had that unemployment number saved in my phone because I was calling it every few weeks to, like, get my checks. And with Modern Family, to have a steady job for 11 years was just insane. It's just not. It doesn't happen. So it feels like a neat little piece of my career that I get to, like, look back on, and it's obviously been documented. And, I get to watch those episodes every once in a while, and I'm still so close with the entire cast. So it sort of feels like it's bleeding into the rest of my career too. I mean, it's a. I will say it's a blur in the sense that I can't believe it all happened and it's already done.
Mhm.
There's a point where I felt like, oh, this will be my life forever, and the fact that it's this thing that ended, it's bittersweet. I mean, it's something I miss terribly, but also so happy that I had it and I get to move on to new things.
And it'll be something that lives forever. I'm always amazed. It'll just be out there forever. And I think people
Yeah,
will continue to discover it for years and years to come.
absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure you get asked this all the time, and it's so gross that I'm going to ask it, but do you think there'll ever be like a reunion movie or reunion episodes or stuff like that?
I mean, I hope so. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I I don't know. I mean, there's been so many that have come up recently. I think, like, it's sort of in the zeitgeist that, like, everything gets rebooted, and I don't know. I don't know what more we have to tell. Um, I think there would need to be a really good reason other than just, like, people want to see us together again.
Yeah. I mean, I like the Friends version too of like what they did with the HBO Max thing where they got together and just like
Right.
reminisced, because we just want to see you all together.
Yeah.
It's even when you guys are together on Instagram or something, it's so fun to
Yeah.
see you guys hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. I miss them all a lot. We were all together at a wedding. Steve Levitan, who's one of the creators of Modern Family, got married, and a huge group of us were together. It was Ed O'Neill, who I hadn't seen in over 2 years, and Sophia and Eric and Ty Burrell and Sarah Hyland, and it was a large group of us. And Justin, my husband, was like, "You need to get a photo with everyone before Ed, because Ed's like known to, like, he's like gonna peace out and do an Irish exit, and you'll never see him again." So I was like, "Ed, before you do that, like, let's get a picture together." So we all gathered on the dance floor. The dinner was about to begin, and we're all together, and they're taking pictures, and, like, the wedding photographers also taking photos of us, and people start applauding, and I'm like, "Oh, this is really sweet." They're so excited that we're all back together. And then I realized Steve and his new wife have just walked into the venue, and they're applauding for them. But even Ed O'Neill was like, "I thought it was for us too."
I would have been applauding for you guys. I would have been excited.
Egomaniacs. We're all egomaniacs.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, last sort of question related, but in terms of the Mitch and Cam spinoff that never went, first of all, like, why the fuck didn't they pick it up? And what can you tell me anything like about the script or like what it was to be about?
Let me see how much I can say without, like, pissing anyone off. First of all, I don't know why they didn't pick it up. I know the reasons that I was told, but I mean, I'm not in those rooms making those decisions, and I respect the people who do. I think there was a question of, like, is this the story we need to keep telling right now? If we're the right gay characters, like, maybe I think in a little ways that Mitch and Cam felt a little dusty, and maybe time to move on. I don't know. I mean, that's sort of what I'm just sort of projecting. The script was very, very, very funny. So I know it wasn't because the material wasn't good. I think it was more of a question of, like, we've been with these guys for 11 years. Do we need to? Is this the right couple to have on TV right now? And I think we were also in a moment where, like, we're looking at diversity and, like, looking at, like, what other voices can we put out there to tell these stories. And I mean, case in point, one of my favorite shows of not just this year, but, like, kind of in a long time. And I know that they use North Star Modern Family as a North Star because I spoke to her about it, but is Abbott Elementary.
So good.
Abbott Elementary is so great. And I got to meet the creator. I always, is it
Quinta?
Quinta, yeah.
Quinta, yeah.
She was super lovely, and I talked to her for a long time, and she was like, "Look, we we really look up to Modern Family, and you held the door open for us to be the show that we are, and that means so much to me. So that's a great example of like, okay, yeah, like step aside and let new voices be heard and new stories be heard. And as far as like what the script was, it kind of followed Mitch and Cam as in their new life. And where did we move to again?
I
I
don't
don't know. At the
remember.
end of the, I don't remember.
Was it a farm
I
town? A
should,
farm
I
town
should.
or something?
It was
Yeah.
basically it's Cam's farm town, but I cannot for the life of me remember where it was. Someone who's listening to this right now is screaming the name of the
I know.
town, and
They
we're
always
not hearing
scream at
them.
my show. Don't worry.
But it was really, really great, and it's sort of Mitch is of course a fish out of water there, and
Did anyone
you
else
know,
appear in the pilot, like any of the other characters?
just Lily.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was opportunity for people to come visit, obviously, but yeah.
Okay, Jesse, talk to me about Take Me Out on Broadway. It's you. It's the
Mm-hmm.
gorgeous Jesse Williams.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell people about it? You're in it till February. I haven't seen it. I live in LA, but as soon as I get to New York, I'm going to come see it because I've only heard the most amazing, incredible things about it.
It's a pretty fantastic play. It's a revival of a play that was first produced in New York in 2002. I saw it when it was first done, and I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with the character that Dennis O'Hare played, which happens to be the role that I am playing now. Dennis O'Hare went on to win a Tony Award for it, and I'm lucky enough that I followed in his footsteps and won a Tony Award for my version of it as well. And also, the play back then won a Tony Award for Best Play, and it won with our production a Tony Award for Best Revival. So that speaks to like just the strength of the material. It's a great cast. It's about a star baseball player like of like the Derek Jeter type status who comes out of the closet, and that's played by Jesse Williams. And I play his business manager who is also gay, doesn't know anything about the game of baseball, falls in love with the sport through his new relationship with this superstar baseball player. It's a play about homophobia and toxic masculinity. It's also wildly funny. It is one of the funniest plays I've ever seen or read. I am lucky enough to deliver a lot of that comedy. Richard Greenberg, the writer, has written incredible monologues for my character that are just roller coasters. They're arias. I mean, like when I saw Dennis O'Hare do it, I was like, it's like watching Shakespeare. I mean, there's beautiful, beautiful pieces of writing, comparing baseball to democracy. And it's just like, it's quite a remarkable piece of writing. And the fact that we get to do it 8 times a week on Broadway till February 5th is really quite a gift. And also, if anyone cares, it does take place in the locker room of a baseball team,
Jesse.
and we care. And so and this is very necessary for the play. I mean, it's not gratuitous at all, but there's a ton of the play that takes place in the showers, and these guys
a lot of dick
shower on stage. There's a lot of nudity, a lot of dick.
Wait, did that bug you? Did that bug you guys the whole? Because there were these like little leaks that happened online, and
yeah.
That must have been frustrating because, I would imagine even taking out the nudity element of the show, you don't want people coming in and taking videos of something that's happening on stage because it's meant to be an intimate thing for the audience.
Right. Well, and with our show specifically, we're using those Yonder pouches where you have to lock your phone. And so we were doing as much as we could to protect the actors who are putting themselves in an incredibly vulnerable position by being nude on stage. And so someone snuck in something and took some illegal videos, and it was disappointing because the videos leaked on the day of our Tony nominations, and some of these actors who had received Tony nominations for their work were then having to deal with these illegal videos of them being naked on the same day that they were meant to be celebrating their work as an actor. Yeah. So that was frustrating. And I think with theater, I'm old school. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm celebrating my 25th year as an actor on stage, but I do feel like audiences have changed a little bit. And I feel like I long for the days where there was a little bit more respect between the audience and the actors. And that certainly doesn't go for every audience. Most audiences are really lovely, but there's a responsibility that comes when you go to see a show like Take Me Out, where these actors are one of the things that they have to do is arrive and be vulnerable and tell the story. And I think there's also responsibility for the audience to respect that and to take it seriously. And, obviously that person didn't. And that was disappointing. But the majority of our audiences have been incredibly respectful and wonderful. And, I assume that when those scenes came up in the show, like before we were in front of an audience, it's like, oh, what's the reaction going to be? Are they going to be like people whistling or cheering or like, there's some very handsome men that are naked on stage.
Yeah.
They're going to be treating it like a Chippendales concert or whatever. Oh my gosh, sounds so old right now. But yeah, but they weren't, and it was they really leaned in and listened to this. They probably did.
I would have
but they
leaned
also
in
listened
too,
to they also listened to the story, and like it's what's being told on stage that those moments is also incredibly important. So
yeah,
it's very cool. I am not naked on stage, so I don't have to deal with that. But I really respect the guys who are.
Well, I respect them too, and God bless them. But I have only heard the greatest things. What's your favorite Broadway show? Do you have a favorite of all time?
Of all time, probably
As an
Sweeney
audience.
Todd.
Yeah. Okay.
Sweeney Todd, I think. Yeah.
And in terms of acting, I'm curious who the best person you've ever acted with is. Like, who were you in a scene with where you're like, man, they are just incredible, stage, screen, wherever?
Man, I mean, I've been really lucky that I've got to work with some incredible, incredible actors. I mean, Nathan Lane is up there for me, truly. Ed O'Neill is remarkable. I worked with Sam Waterston on a production of The Tempest, and that was Al Pacino. I got to do work with Al Pacino in The Merchant of Venice and Shakespeare in the Park. I mean, I've gotten to work with some big, big, fancy, famous people, and they're famous for a very, very good reason because they're incredibly talented. Yeah, I mean, I got to work a little bit opposite Audrey McDonald on the Good Fight, and
incredible.
She's someone I adore and admire, and Mandy Patinkin. Yeah, I've been very lucky.
What's on your bucket list next? I mean, obviously you're so prolific and incredible, but is there anything that you haven't done that you really want to tackle?
I mean, I always let the work. I'm going to sound really pretentious for a split second, but I always let the work guide like what I do. But if I had to pick like a genre or something, I really am anxious to do some sort of, I love these limited series. Like I love The White Lotus. I love these like sort of capsule things.
You should check in next season of The White Lotus. Let's get you on season 3.
I mean, I would love to be The White Lotus. Also, Severance. Like a show that's so different from Modern Family is something I would like to dip into. And I love that, when I started Modern Family, streaming platforms didn't really exist. I mean, we had cable and we had network television, but like Netflix didn't exist, and Hulu and all these great platforms that are producing such amazing content. I came out of Modern Family like I was coming out of a bunker. Like I was like, what's this new world that I am living in? There's all these amazing, new places to create. And so I would love to kind of, do something that is not going to take 11 years of my life, but also be really high quality work.
Yeah. I'd love to see that. Jesse, this was such a pleasure to get to talk to you. I want to encourage everyone to check you out on Broadway's Take Me Out. The last 2 questions that I ask all of my guests are your favorite Mariah Carey song. And if you were choosing for People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive, who would you choose? And you can't choose your significant other. It's got to be someone else.
My favorite Mariah Carey song. Oh my gosh. I mean, I love her Christmas album. Is that cheesy?
I mean, it is, but I'll take it.
All I Want for Christmas Is You. And my Sexiest Man Alive. Gosh, I mean, oof. I mean, I got to look at Jesse Williams every night, and I'm like, how have you not been on that cover?
Yeah, he's stunning looking, like just perfect.
He kind of is. He's and also the thing that really pisses me off is he's such a nice guy. He's so fucking kind. And I'm like, you can't be that too. Yeah. He's just and he's become a very, very, very good friend of mine. And I like him a lot. So I would put Jesse up there.
Wait, I know this just popped in my head, and forgive me, but we talk a lot about housewives on this show. And was there a moment where Bethany was dating Eric Stone Street? Am I making that up?
It's so funny because before I got on this, I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't want to just talk about housewives because I know nothing about the house. I've never watched an episode, but I did do an episode of Watch What Happens Live, and the guest with me was Bethany Frankel, and she couldn't have been lovelier. adore her. I think she's great. And you're right. She was dating Eric Stonzer for a little bit. They were sort of, hanging out. And she came by set a few times and like she sent us, skinny girl margaritas. And then now they're just friends. I mean, nothing happened. It was like, oh yeah, we're moving on to something else. It didn't really work out. But yes, you're right. And it's so funny because I was like, I wonder if he knows that. And if he does, I'm going to mention it. And here it is.
I'm so glad I brought it up because I feel like Bravo fans, we've always wondered, was that really a thing? I think they were photographed together or something.
Yeah, no, I think
maybe they confirmed
dating.
it. Okay.
I don't know, but like it didn't last long and nothing happened, but it was just, yeah, I think they absolutely were dating for a little while.
Oh, heard it here first. Jesse, what a pleasure to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I've been such a huge fan forever. And so I just thank you for taking the time. Everyone's going to go see Take Me Out on Broadway. Jesse, thank you. All my love. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.